Oh, and it says end. Oh, then end broadcast. But I don't see anywhere where it's recording. But there's a red dot, so that must mean we're recording.
I think so. Yeah, it's showing on the page of mine that's got a red dot.
And that when that's on there like that, it must mean we're recording because it's red. That's what it does in Zoom. So, and how does one know if anybody's even here looking at it? I mean, it's all a new thing. Oh well.
Hopefully they'll pop up here on.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe say send a comment if you're here or something.
Yeah. Do you think they'll show up at the bottom, like all of you show up at the bottom? What shows on your side? Just your picture, or the whole thing?
Whole thing.
Oh,
I'm seeing you, a big picture of you, and 4 squares on the right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
oh, you know what? And I think that's what you pick at the bottom. You can pick whether you just see one or multiple or.
Mm.
Interesting. Huh. Well. All righty. Well, we're here. I would like to welcome you all to the business.
You may want to even go on LinkedIn, Greg.
What's that? What did you say?
Go on LinkedIn and see go on LinkedIn in your feed and see if we're
if it's in my feed.
broadcasting on the live platform.
And I put that on my home button, right? Oh, that's interesting.
It should be in your home button, right?
Yeah. No, I'm not seeing it.
Okay.
There's a couple other people that are broadcasting, but I'm not seeing it. I wonder how long it takes to show up.
Hmm.
And I wonder if let me do this. Go to my posts and activity.
I'll check my mobile version.
Oh, we're on. So when I went to my posts, it's broadcasting over there. Interesting. Okay. Well, let's come back over and we'll start again. And of course, Sarah, my VA, can clean all this up. We see some people. Hi, Joshua. How are you? Nice to see you. And Steve, nice to see you. So we're up and we're going. Okay, good. So I'd like to welcome you all to the very first Business Freedom Conversation. And this is affiliated with my coaching page, Power and Performance Coaching. And of course, Power and Performance Coaching has these showcase items, which are tools that several of the people here are implementing that business owners can use for free. And that's the purpose of the page, and the purpose of today's conversation is that whatever questions that business owners have, they can ask in this panel of experts. And today we have Salina, who's a stress expert and a licensed social worker. And we have Matt, who is the VP of Operations of Victory Selling, a selling company that teaches selling. And then we have Brian Traichel, and Brian is a LinkedIn. I call him my LinkedIn guru. He's too humble for that title, but like the guy that in Tibet, that's Brian. He's at the top of the mountain for LinkedIn. And then here we have Keith. Keith is the tax attorney based in Houston, but he serves the entire country. And we're all here to serve those people that are on LinkedIn that have questions and ideas that they want to explore about their business. So the format that we're going to use today is I'm going to introduce each one of our panel members, and they have a small presentation that's going to go a couple of minutes, tell you about what they do, so you can become more familiar with them and their skill level and the kinds of things that they deal with. And then when we're done with the last person, then we'll open it up for questions, and you can type your questions into the chat. I see them here on the right. I apologize if I bumble. This is my first time using StreamYard, but StreamYard is one of the, I think, 8 approved tools that LinkedIn lets you do this. But this is kind of fun having this all start and creating this forum that if anybody's got a question or wants a problem solved, here we are all for free. Now, I'm your host, and I'm Greg Andruk, and I'm a CPA. I'm the CFO of a vitamin company. I've been an MBA since the last millennia when the ice melted, and I'm a certified coach. And so there's almost no question you can ask that I haven't heard a couple times before. But let's start out with our first guest. I'm going to start today with Matt, and So I look semi-professional, like a newsreader. I've created everybody's bio that I can read. Apologize for reaching across the screen. So Matt is the VP of Operations for Victory Selling. Matt's an MBA and has a BS in business, both from Hawaii Pacific University. Victory Selling is focused on driving real and lasting change in the sales function by using scientifically proven tools and integrity-based approach to selling. Their principal product is the Sales DNA test, which will tell you just about everything you wanted to know about your salespeople. So with that, take it away, Matt.
Yeah, Greg, thank you so much. Very happy to be here. Once again, Matt Smyth. I work for a company called Victory Selling. We're a sales consulting and training company, right? Focused on really delivering business results. We help our clients focus on 3 key areas: hiring salespeople, sales processes, and then really your daily activities. So these are kind of our 3 main things that we focus on and help our clients with. You mentioned the Sales DNA test. It's kind of what we do for all of our clients. It kind of gives us an MRI, 1 on the organization, and then 2, we can actually bring it down into the top 21 core competencies a salesperson's should be doing. And it's all based by science and data. We use one of the largest sales databases in the world, and you can really compare yourself to 2.1 million other salespeople, or 34,000 different companies that have already taken this assessment. And it really just narrows it down onto, once you understand what you're doing well, what you need improvement on, and what's holding you back, we can actually start doing everlasting change. So very excited to be here. Hope I didn't go too technical, but we've just been learning a lot about companies, what's going on, what's happening. And, what we're finding is like 87% of the companies out there don't have a well-defined sales process. Out of that, salespeople are failing 67% of the time because they're not following a well-defined sales process, right? And so really our goal and our job is to really figure out what's going on with the company and what we can do to help improve, and then building a service timeline to really drive those lasting results.
Wow, good. I mean, if you ever really wanted to know how your salespeople are doing, Victory Selling is the place to find out, right?
Absolutely.
And I think, most of the small business people that I talk to, that there's always that nagging thought in the back of their head. Like, my guy isn't any good, or, things don't happen. And this is the way to get on the path to figure out what they need to do to fix their sales process, right, man?
And what we're also finding, right, everyone's trying to hire a salesperson, and you can have a stack of resumes that are 50 people. It really is a toss of a coin.
Right.
Are they going to be good? You spent a lot of money on a recruiter. It's still a 50-50 toss of the coin, right? With our test that we use, it's a 92% accuracy that
Wow.
person will be, if we recommend them to have the interview, 92% accuracy, they're going to be in the top half of your sales team within 6 months to a year.
Wow.
So
Excellent.
stop guessing, stop throwing money away on someone that could work out. Really, if you want to save time, we can show you the process. We can teach you how to do it. And then after that, we work with you to really help you find the right salesperson before you make a huge, could be $1 million mistake on spending time on training and exercising and paying a huge salary for someone that's doesn't have the will to sell, or doesn't have the right desire, or what is their desire, right? Do they have a problem discussing money? These are things that you definitely want to know before you hire somebody, so they can actually go and do the role.
Right. Excellent. I mean, when you consider the expense of somebody's salary to what the impact is of a non-functioning salesperson, I mean, pretty much you don't have a business if you don't have sales.
It's the driver, right? I mean, again, this is all we do. We focus strictly on the sales team, sales process, sales leadership, sales, training. That's what we focus on. But yeah, I mean, it is the driver, right? You have to have sales coming in if you want to keep your business going, and then how are you measuring it? Can you forecast? Are you able to pay your salaries to all the other employees that you need to really help work? So I love it. I came from a background in commercial insurance, and when I took this test, I wish I would have had this 7 years ago. Right. It would have been a complete game changer. So
right.
Yeah.
Now I understand too, when somebody takes a test, so say you've got somebody that you're happy with, but you just wish they could do better, that don't you have the tools that cannot pinpoint where they are, and then you have resources like education, counseling, and whatever that can fix those certain parts that are broken?
Yeah, you get a readout and it's 27 pages, and it'll tell that individual person, hey, these are the 13 or 14 things that you can really work on. After that, Steve Haru, our founder, went back to the drawing board, completely created his all online training using, top line training, but it's all based on the sales DNA test. So if you're having trouble, hunting, right, we have online modules, you can go and complement whatever you're learning or whatever might be holding that salesperson back. So majority of our sales training is based on how do we complement the sales DNA, and how can we help someone improve.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, thank you. And as I mentioned, we're going to be adding them in the next day or 2 or 3 as a showcase item off the Power and Performance Coaching page. And the title, correct me, so it's the Sales Maturity Evaluation Form. That's kind of the starting process, and that's for free, right, Matt?
That is free. Yeah, that'll really help us understand your company, where they're at. Is it, the different realms, and once that, we'll have a quick conversation and just kind of show you kind of the big 30,000 square foot view of where you are. And it's all questions that you'll be answering. So that's what we really like to start with. And after that, we can keep moving forward and figure out what's the next steps and what's, steps moving forward.
Excellent. So like I said, we'll have that up there. You fill it out. It's a link. You go straight there. It takes a couple of minutes to fill it out. Matt gets notified immediately, and you start that whole process with them. It's just a great tool for you to find out what's happening in your organization related to sales. So thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Greg.
As part of the format, Matt will be available for questions after the other panelists talk, and here we go. So let's move to Keith. Keith Cothroll's a tax attorney. And once again, my printed thing in large letters so I can read it easily. So Keith is a practicing tax attorney that resides in Houston, Texas. And he serves the entire U.S. On IRS matters and has considerable experience with bankruptcies. Hopefully nobody needs that's watching. Keith has a law degree from South Texas College of Law, Houston, and Bachelor of Arts from the University of Texas at Arlington. Check out Keith's weekly videos. Keith does weekly videos. I'm inserting them in my newsletter. They're a minute or two long, and they're on his profile or our newsletter and the Power and Performance Coaching page. They'll keep you abreast of what you need to know and stay one step ahead of the tax man, which is all of our objectives, right, Keith?
That's right, Greg, and thank you, and pleasure to be here with you and the other panelists as well. And pretty much what I'm going to talk about today is the dreaded IRS letter. So what I do for a living is I take an IRS letter, whether it's a collection letter, an audit, the IRS says you didn't file something, you need to file something, you forgot to file something, you need to file your returns, whatever letter that is what I handle for a living. And I'm able to do that across the United States. In fact, I have some experience doing audits from coast to coast, and I've had to travel to New Hampshire and Portland, Maine, and some other places just to resolve some issues. So today I want to talk to everyone about the collection letters that the IRS sends out. So when someone gets a letter in the mail from the IRS, what I hear all the time is, I got a letter from the IRS and I don't want to open it. Well, you want to open it, and I'm going to tell you why. Because if you don't open it, at some point, you're going to get levied or garnished, and you're going to go to, pay for brunch or something, and you're not going to have any money in your bank. So it's really important to understand what these letters are so that you know what's coming. And the IRS gives you due process and gives you plenty of time to take care of what you need to take care of and to call me to take care of it for you. You just don't want to ignore it. So the first letter that you're going to get is the Notice CP-14. That letter basically says, hey, this is you owe us some taxes, you owe us a balance. Here's how you can figure out online what your balance is. Here's how you can figure out online how to pay it. And then you have the CP-501. That's your second notice. That notice is going to say a balance due. CP-503 says you still have a balance due, and you might get liened. You might get a tax lien. So call us. Let's do something about it. All of these designations that I'm talking about are going to be in the upper right-hand corner of the letter that you receive. So that's how you're going to know which one you got. The next one is CP 504. That is basically your 60-day countdown before levies and garnishment start letter. So it basically says, hey, in 30 days, if you don't do anything, we are going, we're going to send you one more letter. And then that letter, you got another 30 days in order to do something. Your final letter before garnishment and levies is the LT11. And it will tell you, here's what you need to do to file a collection due process hearing or a cap appeal. These are specific terms, but basically what they mean is they're an option for you to appeal the balance that you owe, or at least to stop them from doing anything, stop the IRS from doing anything to you by filing that hearing, and then that buys you a little bit more time to get your stuff together and get into a payment plan or an offer in compromise. You'll also have an LT16, which is basically that your letter's been assigned for enforcement action in 10 days. Then there will be a levy or garnishment. And then the last one is the LT19 about outstanding tax returns. And so what I want to kind of conclude with is that when you get a garnishment, which is typically a wage withholding order from your W-2 pay stub, or a levy, which is not only a bank levy, it could also be a levy on your vendors. So if you are in construction and you have your vendors paying you, that counts too. And so once the IRS takes your money, it's very hard to get it back. And the only way that you might be able to get it back is if you get a utility shut-off notice or if you're going to get evicted. But even that's not a guarantee. So that's why it's important to know what these letters are and to read your mail when you get it from the IRS, because once you get to the stage where they're levying and garnishing you, I can move quick and get things resolved pretty fast, but the money they took is probably the money that they took. So it's just important to read what you get.
Well, isn't the number one item to advise a client? I'm not a tax practitioner, but tax is weaved through everything so much. I'm a member of the tax section of the American Institute of CPAs, but isn't the number one thing, Keith, to say, like you said, don't panic. Open the mail, because there's this long, lengthy process where you're going to be okay. You're going to be able to work something out versus not doing anything. And then, like you said, going to brunch and your credit card doesn't work or your debit card doesn't work because everything's been taken. What about the appeals and the process? How long do you find that to work in the stuff that you do?
For the appeals part on for what we're talking about today, it's something that I usually file those things as a way to buy time so that we can get our paperwork together. So I talked about an offer in compromise, and what that is a tax settlement. And so you're asking the IRS to pay for something less than what you owe, but you have to qualify for it. So these big box tax companies that you'll see on TV, they will talk about, pennies on the dollar. We can settle for pennies on the dollar or something to that effect.
Yeah.
But, I owed $1 million and I only had to pay $10,000. Well, that's because you didn't have any assets. And because what I get is a financial statement that I have you fill out, and it's going to tell me what you have, what your assets are, what you're paying for your monthly bills, what income's coming in. And I'll say, well, yes, you do qualify, or no, you don't. And then we go from there.
Right. There's always hope. So I don't practice in this area. And the funny thing is, about 12 years ago, for the company that I work for, I got a tax attorney, and his name's Chuck Reddick, and he just happens to be the IRS commissioner right now. but and that's cutting me no, I'm not getting any slack, but working for his firm. So I have the father of a client of mine that from a previous business owes about $3.5 million to the IRS, and he's 93 right now. And we've gone through 2 offer and compromises, and all of his tax years are split into different little pieces. And I can just tell you, anybody out there, talk to Keith. There's lots of hope. Like this father of a friend of mine, we're working with the current IRS commissioner's firm, but he's kept his in the air for 5 years, because every time a collection notice comes, they appeal it. That's the advantage of having somebody like Keith, rather than you go to pay a bill and your check bounces or your debit card doesn't work because you didn't work with somebody like Keith. So thank you, Keith. And Keith, again, he is a showcase item on power and performance coaching. And if you don't have a question that you want to bring up today, just click the link on our showcase and you'll get to Keith, and Keith will do a private consultation with you. So thanks again, Keith. So now I want to introduce Salina Bambic. She's our stress expert for the day, and everybody's interested in what Salina has to say. I mean, with the pandemic and the economy and Ukraine and nuclear war on the brink.
Yeah.
So Salina is a clinical practitioner and certified professional coach. Excuse me, specializing in stress management and mindfulness. She has a master's degree in social work and a bachelor's in business. That's a very helpful combination for small business owners. That means you relate to what's going on in their world. For the last 10 years, she has worked with a wide variety of clients in the corporate and health services field, supporting them to overcome personal challenges, build confidence, and develop their skills to positively manage stress and anxiety. So Salina, I turn the floor over to you. Tell us about what we can do with all this stress that's hitting us every day. Like the Fed just raised the interest rate, so there's another thing.
Yes. Thank you, Greg, for that wonderful introduction. Hello, panelists and guests. So today my role is an educator. So in this capacity, we'll talk about first what we can do, 3 key tools and strategies that we can use in our everyday life, right, to alleviate stress and build our personal resilience. Stress may not go away, it might not be avoidable, right? But there are some things that we can do to manage stress so it doesn't manage us. So if we can raise your hand, how many of us has experienced stress in the last week or the last year? I know I have. You're not alone. According to Harvard Business Review, burnout leads to an estimated 125 billion to 190 billion healthcare spending every year. And 40 million adults in the US age 18 and older suffer from anxiety disorders, and that's from the Anxiety and Depression Association of America. So you're not alone. If you have stress or worry or anxiety, it's very common. So what are some 3 things that we can use that are commonplace? One is identifying our triggers. So you don't get emotionally hijacked by them. So being able to identify what your triggers are, you can help manage them. And we want to focus on what we can control, right, and change. So for example, what is a stress trigger? It's anything that'll push your button. Maybe it's that IRS letter that you're just talking about and you don't want to open. So it's identifying what causes you to feel stressed out, anxious, or irritable, and make a list of 5 top ones, right? From most impactful to least impactful. Maybe that's, for example, internal and external stressors. Internal stressor might be being the inner critic to yourself. It might be blaming others. It might be, I should have done better. So, and external stressors might be not taking care of yourself, working long hours and there's not that work-life balance, or it could be difficulty saying no, or having difficulty delegating tasks. So these are just a couple examples. You write your own list of 5. Why do we do it? Again, just identify your stressors so that you can manage them. And without knowing what causes you stress, it's really hard to change anything. The second one is the power of the reframe. How many of us, it can help with shifting perspective. As a famous quote, most of you might know this, of Wayne Dyer, who says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So what is reframing? It's choosing to look at things from a different perspective. So it's looking at a potentially stressful situation as a challenge or opportunity versus a threat. We come at those situations very differently if we look at it as a threat. And when we're able to look at it as a challenge or opportunity, it minimizes the power over us and can help us shift from clearer thinking and really help us find more creative solutions. So we might not be able to control our situation, right? But we do have the power of choice of how we view it and respond. So why do we do it? Is because when we get stressed, we have tunnel vision. Just like this, maybe I'm talking fast because I'm a little nervous. So I'm like, gonna slow down, pace, maybe take a deep breath. But our thoughts tend to be negative when we're in the stress mode, and it inhibits our clear thinking. So when we have the ability to think clearly, we can think of solutions. So what does this look like in practice? It's asking yourself better questions and really coming at it with a mind of curiosity versus judging ourselves. So what are some practical questions we can use? We can ask ourselves, what are some of the other ways to interpret the situation that might be more useful? What would I tell someone that was close to me that was going through this situation? Kind of trying to gain some perspective here. What resources do you have within and outside of yourself to help you with facing this situation? And what's the opportunity here, and what can I learn from this? So those are some questions to reframe the situation and gain perspective, clearer thinking, and come up with some different solutions. The last one is mindfulness. How many of you heard of mindfulness? Is there anyone? Yeah. A little bit? Okay. So what is it? According to John Kabat-Zinn, he is the founder of mindfulness-based stress reduction. It's paying attention on purpose without a non-judgmental attitude. With mindfulness, you take an observer perspective, so you're zooming out of the situation versus sometimes when we're stressed out, we can't see the forest through the trees. So with the mindfulness, it helps us the ability to not be yanked around by our emotional state, but observe the thoughts without being attached to them. Why do we do it? Well, the researchers say it can help improve our mood. It can help us feel less stressed, less irritable. It can improve our attention, which we really need in our work, right? Our focus. How many distractions do we have all day long? So it's helping us improve our attention, our focus, improve our sleep. And there's research that also shows it can help with physical health and lower our blood pressure. It also helps shift our relationship to stress. So when we have a different relationship to stress, it helps us come out of the situation more mindfully, more skillfully, and respond versus react. So what are some simple ways to practice this? I know when I first started mindfulness, I'm like, what is that? Paying attention on purpose? What does that mean, really? So we can do it right now. Instead of most of us, we go from doing, we're an autopilot, reacting to everything, to being. So if we stop right here, right now, and we mindfully listen, what is it that you hear right now? Maybe it's the tone of my voice. Maybe it's the hum of your computer. So it's mindfully listening 1 or 2 minutes. The other thing you can do is just tune into your breath. 1 to 2 minutes, become aware of your breathing. I'm a shallow breather, so when I get nervous, I'm sucking in my breath. But if you just focus on your breath, natural breathing, 1 to 2 minutes, your thoughts come and go, and you're not judging the experience. So it's just getting curious. Observing your breath is one. Another, I hear the planes. Another and last one you can do is labeling the emotions. For some of us, that might be really hard, but you're just labeling the emotions as it comes up in this experience. Maybe it's excitement to be here with all of you. Maybe it's a mind of curiosity. I'm really interested in what these panelists have to say, and also the guest questions. So 1 to 2 minutes, just labeling the emotions and without being carried away with them in your story, in your head. Okay, so in summary, in order to reduce stress, you can apply these 3 simple strategies and tools we discuss, which is identify your triggers, power of the reframe, and mindfulness. And here's the invitation to you all. What's the most immediate, smallest step you can take today to move the needle in a positive direction in managing stress. And that's it.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Salina. I mean, these are all really valuable tools. So I get called into a lot of super stressful situations. This is American business. I've been doing this for a really long time, and I've been involved with approximately 2,500 lawsuits in my career. And what happens is this is American business. So every time we introduce a new product, anything happens, somebody winds up suing you. And I usually have to deal with the discovery. I'm usually the point man on it, having to do the whole thing. And I can tell you for a fact that reframing it, mindfulness, and simply pausing. Everybody's in a dither and it's a big problem and it's a crisis and whatnot. But when you simply use these tools that Salina has talked about, it's a whole new world out there. I mean, as she says, everything is how we view it. And when you start viewing things differently, the stress, the issues subside, and then you're just focused with what you consider as a problem, with eventually turns into an opportunity. And you resolve your issues, including lawsuits. It's great for that approach. Thank you, Salina. That was a really good talk on how to deal with the things we're all dealing with literally every day.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So as our next guest is Brian Traichel, and Brian is the LinkedIn guru. And he's too modest to accept that title, but it's what I call him. So Brian has a BS in Business Administration from Eastern Connecticut State University. He also has certificates from LinkedIn in B2B marketing, marketing on LinkedIn, LinkedIn, the Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to Dynamics 365, and set up LinkedIn Sales Navigator system. Brian has worked as a coach, a sales trainer, director of client engagement, and business development trainer. His experience is extensive in the areas of actually making sales happen. So, Brian, there's your introduction. Take it away.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. And great to be here. Great tips, Salina. Good reminders. And, you know, when it comes to stress, a lot of people do stress out LinkedIn because it's such a multifaceted platform that people aren't really sure which way to go with that. And one of those tips I want to, bring out is that you do not have to post on a regular basis or create a lot of content. Some people may choose to, but the real true sales professional on LinkedIn has an advantage for outbound business development. And outbound business development means opportunities to reach out to your network and start creating and curating real relationships. It's gotten to a point where there's a lot of spam, there's a lot of, messages and information really isn't being distilled down to what it was intentionally set up for. So LinkedIn is all about having a strong network. And a lot of people are always of the mindset, more. I need to meet more people. But I always like to tell people that the secret to your success inside of LinkedIn is your existing connections. So I just want to put out a public service announcement and say, before you start connecting with more people, I want you to go back and see who you've already connected with. And you may discover that those people are value to your community. So start to re-engage with people that you haven't had conversations with rather than sending connection requests every single day. The second part of LinkedIn is the profile, right? So ultimately, every activity you do on LinkedIn is going to drive people back to your profile. And they're going to ask themselves, would I do business or accept this person's connection request? So before you start going outbound, make sure that your house is in order, right? Have that nice curb appeal. Make sure you're really conveying what you do, how you do it, who you work with, highlight your experience, and be okay with also breaking that, what I call the Clark Kent Superman persona, being people seem to have a different persona on Facebook than they do on LinkedIn, but last time I checked, we're the same person, right? So you don't have to have a split personality. Try and integrate personal items about who you are and what you do on LinkedIn, because people actually gravitate towards that more. So it is a B2B platform, yes, but we are people at the end of the day, and we all share similar interests, similar struggles, and we want to have an opportunity to really get to know people in our network before we start selling to them, right? So I don't believe LinkedIn is a selling tool. It's an opportunity to create relationships that you can offer services and products to. But if you're coming out of the gate with a numbers game or email funnel or things, people are going to catch on to that very quickly. So I don't recommend that as good advice. So, the main thing about LinkedIn is I've been studying LinkedIn, probably for 14, 15 years now. And my standing joke is that I might not be an expert tomorrow because the platform could change, right? So I always have to make sure that you're sharp and you're paying attention to what's happening. And as Greg knows, we see things change within days on the platform. So case in point, main thing is that I don't want people to stress about where should they start on LinkedIn. The best place to start is your daily notifications. If anything, dedicate 7 minutes a day to your LinkedIn activities and go through your daily notifications, which are going to include birthdays, job changes, and work anniversaries. Those are the main things that are happening in real time to real people. And it gives you an opportunity to reconnect with someone or discover someone that you didn't even know was in your network. A lot of people just gloss through that, but I think the gold is in the notifications, and it may only be 7 to 10 minutes per day. And we talked about Matt's in sales processes that, 85% or 87% of people don't have sales processes. Your sales process in today's selling environment is LinkedIn. So in addition to a sales process, you want to have a sub-sales process for your LinkedIn activities. So I help people create a sales process using the platform based on their goals and their needs, and of course, how much time they have in the day. And I'd be happy to discuss that, further with anyone who has any questions about, best practices on LinkedIn and what we can really do. But that's what I've been doing. LinkedIn is the best tool for personally and professionally. Everything that I've done on that platform has turned into amazing relationships, and I've created, a friendship out of that. And you just really want to stay current, stay present, and pay attention. But by no means do you have to do everything that all the other experts are telling you have to do. Right? Pick and choose what's best for you and decide, how you want to use it. But I think it's great. It tells an interesting story. There's a lot of interesting information about people, but you have to read it and you have to take the time to look at it and not just randomly connect with people that you have no intentions of talking to. And then the last thing I'll say is that one of the misconceptions is about when you send a connection request to somebody that you want to get their attention or engage in a conversation, most people are waiting for them to accept that connection request. So they get frozen in the fact that, well, I sent Greg a connection request. He hasn't accepted it yet, so I'm not going to do anything until Greg accepts it. Well, we still have the phone, right? So we can still call Greg and notify him and let him know I sent you a request. And the reason I did it was because I really like what you're doing in the coaching space. I'm not going to wait for Greg to accept it. If it's been a week and I really want to talk to him, I will call him and use that as my introduction to break the ice with the fact that I sent them a request. And a lot of people aren't checking or ignoring, or they have 65 invitations. So you could be waiting for months. So if you're truly an outbound sales professional, you do not have to wait. You can be proactive and make those and kind of go from there. So hopefully a few of these have been helpful, but again, it's, LinkedIn is my passion. It's been nothing but positive, and it continues to always bear fruit and create better relationships and deeper relationships. So thank you for having me, Greg, and, talk about that.
Glad to have you. So, every time I talk to Brian, I learned something new that I've been on LinkedIn from day one. I've been giving him $50 for the premium thing monthly for how long has that been around? 18 years or 19 years, something like that. And I'm never
2006. Yeah.
Well, they've gotten a lot of $50 out of me. But the point is, it's worth every penny of it. I mean, I often, anybody who's had to deal with larger companies, and I have to deal with Walmart, Walgreens, Rite Aid, CVS, all these people. It's a fabulous resource besides sales. And I've used it as techniques to track down people. Where I've tracked down vice presidents of Walgreens, vice presidents of Walmart, and I have a 3-pronged approach. Because you get all this information on LinkedIn, I send the connection request. I get their contact info. I email them. I call them on the phone. The phone is an icebreaker today. And as millennials get older and get into senior positions, where they don't use the phone as much, it's going to be shocking to them, the people that use the phone with them. But it's a fabulous tool that I can't tell you how many problems I've solved and solved quickly by getting to the right decision maker through LinkedIn and finding out who they are, where they are, who else knows them. Like if I can't get a problem solved right away and somebody's not responding to me, I can find out who knows them and then get that person to say, hey, you better call Greg. He's calling me. Get him to stop calling me. You deal with it, type of thing. So it's a fabulous tool, and Brian knows all sorts of stuff about it. And thank you very much for giving us your presentation.
Brian, I don't know if you can see it, but Carmela had a question for you.
Yeah.
Can you see that in the comment section? She was asking any tips on what to say or what not to say in the message you're sending along with the connection request. Yeah.
Yeah, the great question. I think the biggest mistake people make in the quote unquote connection request is that they try to do two things in one one connection request. The idea of the connection request has one purpose: get connected, right? So the fewest words that will get you to allow that person to accept your connection request is the best approach, in my opinion. Most people try to say, I'm reaching out to you because I have this product and we help companies. That's a sales email. You're doing a connection request. You're connecting with a person. So you want to say, hi, Matt, I'm looking to expand my network of sales professionals. Thanks in advance for connecting, period. So it's going to be up to that other person whether they accept it or not. But the minute you throw in the here's what I do and here's how I can help you in a connection request, that's a red flag to me. It says if I accept this request, I can probably bet that I'm going to get 5 to 7 emails of junk of you pitching me on your product. So we don't want to do that.
Okay, good advice.
The less is more approach is what I take. It's the second message after the connection. Thanks, Matt, for reaching out. I appreciate the connection. The reason I reached out to you initially was I saw blank, 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 and then you can kind of go into your service offering. But I still like to call people after connecting with them and really not get into a sales process initially. But I hope that answers your question.
Great, thanks. And Matt, there's a question also that says, what size and type of companies do you target?
Yeah, so Victory Selling, we specialize in B2B. We don't really do much work with B2C. So not like, residential realtors or any kind of like hospitality. Or any kind of like retail. We're focused mostly on the B2B type of clientele. And as far as size, generally, we like to work with at least teams of 5 or more. So that could be the owner, if it's a small business, it could be the owner, a manager and 3 sales guys, or the owner and 4 salespeople. That's generally what we're looking for, all the way up to, I think our largest client has about 100 salespeople. So that's really it. It's just B2B. And then, at least a sales team, or at least a company that has an owner, and then 4 salespeople, or an owner, manager, and 3 salespeople, and all the way up. So that's who we're really looking to work with.
Super, great, thanks. Well, right now, if anybody has any other questions in the audience, you can type them in now. But that's all the questions. That's all the presentations. I appreciate. Thank you all the panelists for your presentations. Remember, we have for almost all of these items, showcase items over on the Power and Performance Coaching page. This video will be up on my YouTube channel, Greg Andruk, Business Freedom Conversation. I'll have that up there tomorrow. Appreciate everybody who looked in. Let's see if we have any. Oh, we got. So we have Joshua wants to connect with everybody. Joshua, you can do that through the Power and Performance Coaching page. And I think so far, I think that's it. So if that's it, I wish everybody thank you for your time. Those of you who are watching, thank you for your viewing. Panelists, thank you for the effort you put into this. I greatly appreciate it that you make this resource available to the people on LinkedIn. Again, good luck to all, and hopefully the world and all the stress subsides.
Yeah.
Good seeing
Thanks
you
again. Have a
all.
wonderful
Thank you,
day.
Greg.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Sure. Bye.